Hello and welcome to part 4 of our jumping lamp tutorial. This is the wrap-up in day 2 where we're going to go through how to set up a scene and then how to render it out as an animation. So by the end of this you will know how to make a project in Cinema 4D and go off with it. So let's get on with it. We have our current lamp tutorial here. Lamp model, sorry, get confused with words. Anyway, firstly we're going to add a background to this whole thing. We're going to get this plane, we're going to, first of all, make it a lot bigger. And then we're going to, let's turn off auto key, because otherwise you will have plane scaling, which is bad. So, now we will select the plane, we will reduce the amount of height segments to, say, I don't know, about here, 6. We will go into full view mode by either clicking this button or just middle mouse clicking on the view. Zoom out. Select, make this editable by hitting the C key or pressing this button here. Now we will select this point here from the side view. We will drag it up. Select this point here, drag it up, and then throw this whole thing into hypernubs. And we have a nice ramp for the background. Maybe even move the whole thing slightly that way. Okay, sweet. Now we're going to add a camera. Cameras are pretty easy to add. You just click on this thing and you go camera, and it automatically puts the camera in the view. Now right now, deselect the camera, otherwise you'll orbit around the camera. If you move around, the camera doesn't move with you, it just stays there. If you want to see through the camera, you press the little button here, and now you can, move through it. Also, you can change cameras from this view here, scene camera, and select the camera, edit the camera to get out of the camera, just a freeform camera. Okay, so once we got that set up, we can now set up the materials for the lamp. Let's just make some rather simple ones. Just double click for a new material. Now, quick thing you might notice, your material here might be gray, not completely white. That's because I set it to white by dragging the sliders, and then I went to edit and set as default. And that means that every time I make a new material, it will be absolutely white, and there will be no specular or anything in the channels. It's because quite often, more often than not, I need a material which is just plain, and it's very annoying to untick the specular every time. Also, obviously, you can save presets into the what is it called, into the content browser, but that's a different topic. Okay, so let's get to this. The color should be, I'm gonna go with the blue that I had in other tutorials, so let's put it about here, drag this a bit over, get rid of some green, maybe, yeah, it should be about right. Now let's add some reflection to this. Change this mode, add Fresnel, or Fresnel, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's one of the others. Now see, right now it makes it very reflective on the side and not reflective in the front at all. I personally don't really like that. I like to mix it up a bit. Right now if you drag down the mix strength to like half, it will mean the middle is 50% reflective and the outside is still 100% reflective. However, if we make this absolutely black, it will mean the middle is 0% reflective and the sides are still 50% reflective. So what I like to do is I like to put the overall brightness to around 18 or something like that. So you can see without the Fresnel it will look like this. And then add some Fresnel to, just make it a bit less reflective in the middle and a bit more reflective on the edges. I don't know, around 45, maybe somewhere 30s. Maybe drag this down a bit to perhaps, there we go, that looks about right. Then we can also add some specular. Specular is the highlight that, it's a fake reflection. It reflects specifically, it reflects like this white area. See that white dot that just appeared there? See, no white dot, white dot. It's just this kind of highlight it's like a blurry reflection simulation, I guess, which sometimes can be quite nice. I generally tend to make it a very sharp highlight. Not too high, but this inner width adds kind of sharpness to it. See, that's generally the shape of the highlight that you're controlling there. And the strength of it. The height is the strength, and this is, the fall off. So I think that's about right. Maybe make it just a bit wider. Anyway, we can maybe inner width a bit wider. We can work with it once we get into a scene. Okay, so we drag this onto the lamp, onto the base. We have to enable our lamp. Remember, we have it locked, so we go Shift F4 to go to Layer Browser, unlock all the. Actually, we still don't need to see the bones, and unlock the layer. Now here we select. Actually, just put on everything. We just drag on this one, and then here we can select it and hold the Control key, drag it to the next object, and the next object, and the next object, and the next object. And now our whole lamp has the blue material on it. Now we'll need a material for the background, which is basically just going to be a pretty plain blue material. It's going to be, once again, just going to drag it down slightly, drag this a bit across, make it nice and blue, and put it on the plane. Obviously, if we render now from our camera view, not very impressive, but it's blue and reflective after all. Now let's move it around a bit, just make sure we're in a... Okay, so let's move our camera across. So it's kind of jumping to the center, rotating. Okay, sweet. Okay, now we will add, what have we got to do? We've got the blues, the Fresnel. Let's add some area lights. Let's go into our 4-view mode. Collapse this material thing for a while. We're clicking, let's drag these coordinates here. There we go. I just like having coordinates down here. It means I can collapse this bar without losing any vital information. Okay, so area lights. We go into the light menu here by holding on this button. We select area light, and now we drag it to the position that we want. Let's make one at the front. Let's widen it, make it nice and big. It's about right. Let's just see how that looks. It is okay. Let us add some area shadows. Let's give a quick render. Okay, it looks a bit grainy, but we can fix that. Try some soft shadows. Let's see what happens with soft shadows. Nope, see, soft shadows is bad because the whole grading thing from area lights is... It's basically, the reason is because this surface is curved, so the area... Basically, if you have an area light, use an area shadow. It's just a way. You can try hard, but I'm pretty sure you get the same result. Oh no, not that bad, but still looks horrible. Let's go to area shadow. Let's rotate this down slightly. Also, click in it and go into details and go. There's this thing which says show in reflection. There you go. Now we should be able to see it in a reflection of our lamp. So when it moves around, it has a nice softbox kind of feel to it. There you go, you can just see it a bit there. Okay, now let's add two more. Just copy and paste this one. Move it across this way. Rotate it. So I'm going to move this light slightly down and forward. And then move this thing up and rotate it a bit. And make it less wide. Just something like this. And change its brightness in the general down to about, say, I don't know, about 53, 54, 50s, 60s, I don't know, around there. And then add a third light and move it to the other side. Rotate. You can hold the shift key to fix rotations to 15-degree increments. And now let's hit render and see what happens. And hey, we have a slightly grainy, but nevertheless an image of quality. Now see how we see this weird triangle thing that's happening? That's because these two side lights aren't far away enough. So let's move them out. And let's change this brightness down. Let's take it to like 18 or something, or 20s. Hit render. And that's much nicer. That's not overblown or anything, it's just, still getting this curve here. Let's move this even further out. Move it up, see what happens. So you can see the nice reflections in the surface of the lamp, so when it jumps around you'll be able to see them move. Okay, I like this. This is right. There's still a bit of that slant there, but let's just move it one more time. Don't forget to click on the viewport you want to render, otherwise it will render this view instead of that view, and no one really wants that today now. Okay, good. This is the way I want it. Now let's add lights inside the lamp. Firstly, we want a big light coming out the front. So let's make a light. Let's group these into Alt G to group and call them scene lights. You can also make a new layer for them if you're going to continue working with the scene. It's also handy. But since I usually do it at the end, I usually just leave them. Now, this light is meant to be inside here, and we're going to change its from Omni to Spotlight. And now we're going to rotate it out, hold the Shift key to snap it, and rotate down here. Now let's make it bigger than it is because, well, you'll see what we'll do in a sec. Let's, by the way, disable these scene lights for a second because they will increase render time. So this light 3, which is going to be our main spotlight, we're going to go into here, go to visible light, and we're going to select volumetric. Now see this new thing that appears? That is how far the volumetric cone goes. So if we render it out now, ta-da, we have light. We can obviously make it smaller, bigger. It is, if we get it to here, it'll only illuminate up to there, but we need it to go a bit further. So let's move it out to the front and hit render. Now it's great. The only thing is I don't like how far the light is illuminating. See, it just keeps on going for like ever. So what we're going to go is go to details, and we're going to enable fall off linear. And now we have a whole new little, Control Shift Z. By the way, if you want to undo a camera move, it's Control Shift Z. Let's get out of the camera here. Now we need to find the thing that is responsible for radius decay. So there it is. We can drag it here by clicking on those arrows, and then we'll be able to see which one is moving in the viewport. Here it is. So let's move it out. Okay, now let's hit render, see what happens. There you go, see, now it kind of fades out to the end, which is nice. Make it smaller. There you go, I like that. Let's go back to our camera view. Let's enable our scene lights, see what we get. Okay, we seem to be hitting a bright spot here, which not 100% sure what has caused this bright spot. Hold on 1 second. Okay, it seems light is just too bright. If you turn the brightness of the light down to like 60%, it seems to look the way we need it. Just was curious what exactly it was. It doesn't seem to be any big deal, just, a bit of light. You can add a bit of a yellow tinge to it if you want. Go here, go yellow, and just really slightly. Even too much probably, just even lighter. Now, as you notice, our lamp doesn't have a light bulb. We kind of probably need a light bulb, don't we? So let's make. Oh, actually, first, if you rewind, the light isn't sticking with it. So we'll get this main spotlight, and we will drag it into the rotator. And now it should move with the head. Wonderful. We could have dragged into the head location, the lamp head here. That also works. We can just go and put it in there. That works just as well. Doesn't really matter. I guess it's useful to keep them apart, but once again, light's usually the last thing to deal with, so just throw them anywhere it works, really. You can even stick a tag on it and attach it to something. Anyway, we're going to need another light now, which is, see how in my animation, which I had, there was this little bit of light coming out of these little, sorry, let's take this one step at a time. Light bulb. Light bulb in this case is just a sphere. We move it over into the head of the lamp, scale it down, maybe make it a bit bigger. There you go. Now put it inside, maybe a bit smaller. And make a material for it, which is just a white material with luminance enabled. And change the luminance to be a bit yellow as well. And stick it on the sphere. Let's call the sphere bulb. And now put the sphere into the lamp head. And now when it rotates, oh yeah, that's right, see, look what, I'm going to show you something right now. Right now I've put the sphere in there so we can see it But the problem is, now there's no visible light because the sphere is obstructing it. So what we have to do is we have to go into the light setting here. We have to go into scene, and see how here it says exclude. We select our bulb, put it in there. Now if we render this, it works. And you can see the bulb. Great, right? Yep, I knew you'd like that. Okay, so now we have that. Now we will need the next little piece. We will need those visible lights sticking out of these little slots here. So we're going to copy this light. We're going to go to General. We're going to change it to Omni Light. We're going to move it up here. Where's our head of the lamp? And we're going to scale all of these big things down. And we're going to hit render. Clearly not quite large enough. Let's hit render again. There you go, see, look. Now you can see these little rays of light coming out of the head, see? However, right now I think it's not quite in the right location. It's not quite bright enough in there. Let's try it here. Well, let us fix that in a second. Right now we can see the lights coming out, which is the important bit of this. We're going to make the inside of this lamp. Let's get out of our camera. Let's go into the camera. The inside here, let's make it reflective white, because lamps usually have a different surface inside them to make it more reflective and useful. So we're going to go into our polygon mode. We're going to go down here, going to turn off the lamp head hypernubs. And we're going to go to V menu, selection, loop selection, select it about here. And we're going to press the UI shortcut. See how it expands? UI. And now this whole surface, we can apply a new material to. Let's make a new material. Let's add some reflection to it. Add some Fresnel, just like we did before. Reduce the Fresnel effect. Click this additive thing because it just makes it all bright. Not quite sure what the technical aspects of that are, but sometimes it's what you need. And now we just drag this onto the selection now screen, and automatically there will be a selection made here. However, now this overrides all the materials on this polygon object, so we still need to drag this blue thing over here and that way. Drag it actually before these selections. That way now, if we deselect everything, inside white, outside blue. Now enable hypernubs. Let's go back to our main camera and let's render this head of the lamp, see what it looks like. See, inside white, so it looks like it's illuminated. Outside not so much. Still, this thing is really bugging me, this spotlight visible. Let's make it brighter, maybe that's the issue. There we go. See, now we can see there's light in there. Okay, now we've covered that. Okay, now we have the only thing really we have left. Oh, that's it. See, right now, if you render it out, you have slight problem with rough edges. It's an anti-aliasing setting. It's just set up to make it quicker to render. You can generally see it in the reflections right now. It's only anti-aliasing the geometry, not the reflections. See, like here, you can clearly see it. So what we do is we go Control B, or this button here, to turn up render settings. And we're going to go to anti-aliasing and change this to best. Now, out, and then if we render it, you will see there will be no issues here. See? Nice and smooth. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to show you how to output this. There are two places which are important for output. It's the output setting and the save setting. In output, you can select how much of the stuff you want to render. For example, right now, if we hit this render button in our render window, we will only render our, one frame because it's set to current frame. If you want, you can set it manually. You can set up frames, or you can just click all frames. And now, if you render it out, it'll render out a whole animation. And you can always change that stuff like frame, step, resolution up here. It's standard settings, nothing too complicated. Now the save menu. In the save menu, you select where you want to save this file. You select the folder, whatever it is, and then you go to format, and you change the format. At the bottom there are QuickTime movies and stuff, but I really recommend using QuickTime PNG or the normal PNG or one of the other formats of images, because image sequences are better for rendering, because you don't lose, if your computer crashes, you can just start rendering from the frame that you finished on. So you just go back to output and you change from frame 55 or something, or wherever it stopped. And you can also stop the render and restart it whenever you feel like it. You can also turn on alpha channel, straight alpha, you know, stuff like that. In compositing project file, you can also save an After Effects file. If you tick save, it will save an After Effects file with nulls and stuff, but that's for a different tutorial. You can just play around with it. And yeah, that's pretty much it really. That's, you know, there's multipass rendering, but once again, a lot of material, not quite this tutorial. Yeah, there we go. It's rendered out and you've got an animation. Yeah, obviously after you've set this path, you just hit the render button, and it'll render out all the frames and save it to wherever you want, and you'll also be able to play them back and if you have the new releases of Cinema 4D. Anyway, it's been great teaching you. Hopefully I'll make some more tutorials soon on other topics. Post what you're interested in, and yeah, I'll get onto it as soon as I can. Have fun!